we have physical abuse. And physical abuse is just as it sounds. It is hitting, kicking, punching, any of those things that causes physical harm to an individual. That is something that a lot of people think, well, caregiver stress or things of that nature can cause a person to break and maybe grab a hold of an older person or shove them or push them. However, it isn't just that physical abuse that is causing so much harm as the emotional abuse that causes as well. So that is another form of elder abuse, which is emotional abuse, psychological abuse, talking down, yelling at the person, frightening them, threatening them with physical harm, or with putting them into that dreaded nursing home. That is something that older people don't want to hear, that they're going to have to move from their home and have their dignity stripped away. And that is part of the emotional abuse that people will put on our older people here in Ohio. The other types of abuse involve neglect. There's neglect by others, where, say, I am the person's caregiver or someone living in the home who has responsibility for protecting that older person, and I don't provide for them the things that they need to keep them safe and healthy. So I'm not giving them their medications. They're not eating regularly. I'm not taking them to doctor appointments. We've had some situations where the elder has been left in a room all alone by themselves while the rest of the family is out living their lives, and no one is tending to this person's hygiene, no one's tending to their social needs or anything like that. That is considered to be neglect. And we've had some very, very serious cases of neglect where individuals have actually died from being neglected. Another form of neglect would be self-neglect. That is where the person does harm to themselves inadvertently by neglecting to meet their own needs. A lot of people will say, well, self-neglect isn't really a form of abuse because you don't have a bad actor abusing someone. But it is an opportunity for us to get involved and get that person what they need. Self-neglect is very related to neglect by others because the same things happen. Folks are isolated, they're not taking their medications, they're not eating properly. Sometimes we will see folks either through self-neglect or neglect wandering because of whatever mental issues that they may have, or dementia or something of that sort. So self-neglect is a major issue. It has been the most reported form of abuse that we have gotten reports on, where neighbors, family, they're just worried about the individual because they're not taking care of themselves or keeping themselves safe. And so we get that type of a report most. The things that happen with self-neglect lead us to what is now becoming one of the fastest growing forms of abuse. In fact, in the most recent months, it has surpassed self-neglect as a form of abuse, and that is financial exploitation. So while we were seeing self-neglect kind of grow, part of that was the issue of financial exploitation, where people were being exploited financially and could not take care of their needs. They couldn't meet their housing, they couldn't buy food, they couldn't pay bills, and that kind of thing.